Today's release day for my second book, Soul of a Rose. First thing I did this morning was go to the gym. So I need to clean up and I'll be right back. Hello writers in training, my name is Shanon, writing under the pen name S.C. Houston and author of Blood of the Lily, and now author of Soul of a Rose. So I told a bit of a fib when I said the first thing I did today was go to the gym. The very first thing I did was jump on the computer and make sure that my 2 books in my trilogy were priced correctly for today in all the sales that I have going out, all the book promotions I have going out on my books. So Blood of the Lily for 5 days starting today is free as an ebook, and the second book in the trilogy, Soul of a Rose, is on sale for 99 cents. And these two will stay at those prices until the end of Friday, the 7th of January. So let's see what else I have on the schedule for today. I'm gonna take a look at my schedule and see everything that I have to do today, which I know is going to be quite a bit, probably way more than I can get done. So yes, Soul of a Rose release day, edit YouTube videos, write, finish Katie Young's novel and leave reviews, check book promos, authortube meetup with Barrett and Chandra, and send newsletter. One thing I don't see on here is do my social media postings, which I need to do that. Usually I can put several things on my list of things to do, but I can only usually get done 3 or maybe 4 things. And from this list, well, I have to do the newsletter. I have to do the authortube meetup with Barrett and Chandra and Nia from Vixen of Fiction. I need to check my book promos. So those are 3 things that I know I have to do today. I don't know what my 4th thing would be. I know with Katie Young's novel, this is, I'm an ARC reader for her next novel called The Four. It doesn't come out until February 8th. So as much as I wanted to finish her book today and leave reviews, I know that I am not going to be able to finish it today, not with everything else I already have on my list. So that will have to move and edit YouTube videos. Well, I have my video done for this week, but I have this video right here, which I need to get up today. So that will have to be done. So that's editing. And then I have write. And write may have to go to the wayside today. As much as I want to write today, I don't know if I'm going to have time with all the other stuff I have to do. And another thing that's not on here is every Monday at 7 o'clock, I also run Pyramid War writing sprints with my Discord group. So that's something else on the list that's not on here that I'm going to have to do. One thing that's also missing from the list is time to relax and enjoy my release day. And well, I just don't know if that's going to happen today, but if you look tomorrow, I have a massage. So I am going to be able to relax and celebrate just a bit tomorrow. So about a week ago, I released a video showing the cover of my second book, and which I don't have the author copies yet. They should be coming in the mail like today or tomorrow from what I understand. So I'm ready to get those. But one thing I didn't do was read a blurb. And well, if you look at the back here, I don't have a blurb. Now with Blood of a Lily, I had a blurb that was done by someone on Fiverr. The blurb came out beautiful. I only had to tweak it just a little bit, move around a couple sentences, fix a couple of beginning sentences. But it was pretty much the format that I received from the seller on Fiverr. And I really, really wanted to use her again for my blurb for the second book because I did want the tone between the 2 blurbs to stay the same. Unfortunately, she stopped taking any more requests, so I had to move on. I hired 2 people on Fiverr, and I don't recall those prices at this moment, but it wasn't real expensive. One of them was kind of a wreck. It took forever to get it from her. She kept extending it, and when I did get it, it was terrible. So the first one that I received was actually the best, and that's pretty much the blurb that ended up on the back of my book. I think I only tweaked it just a little bit, and I'd have to say I'm probably not as happy with it as I was with the first one, but I don't think it's a bad job. So let me read you that blurb now. A quest through the underworld, the rumblings of greater threats, an unfathomable choice. When Rose last attempted to help someone, she was cursed, kidnapped, and nearly killed. In the safety of their home at last, Rose and Lily attempt to recover from their grief when Quintus arrives asking for their help. Against her judgment, Rose agrees to aid Lily's love to search for a way to turn Quintus's brother back into a man. Only moments pass before the goddess Artemis appears, demanding Agathon so she may avenge the cuckold Zeus. The skirmish results in a devastating loss for Rose. Only a higher power stops her from making a grievous mistake. At the bidding of the Morrigan, Rose journeys to Tecdune, the otherworld realm, to beg a favor from Dawn, the god of the dead. The way to Dawn's fortress is rife with unimaginable dangers. One wrong move, and Rose will lose her soul forever. An intriguing blend of adventure, romance, and myth, Soul of a Rose will alight primal magic with the heart readers. Embark on a journey where imaginations know no bounds. Delve into the worlds of gods, goddesses, and more. The second book in the Clash of Goddesses series will leave you breathlessly awaiting the next book. So not bad. I like it. There are a couple sentences that start with the same structures and one word is kind of repeated in the beginning. So I could probably do better, but it is what it is at this moment and it's on the back of my book. All right, so now I am going to read the first chapter, which isn't actually in Rose's point of view yet. And perhaps this could actually be a prologue, but I have been told that prologues are probably something that readers don't really like anymore. So I've been making all of what I would have made my prologues the first chapter. So here it is, the first chapter. Under a warm sun, a lush green field swept through the valley between sloping hills. Normally, white dots of grazing sheep and lyrical music on the wind pacified the Morrigan's soul. But today, she surveyed the battle from the top of a hill. A metal clamor rose above dying screams and monster roars. Her heart pounded. This was supposed to be Tir na Nog, the land of youth, an island paradise and other realm of everlasting youth, beauty, and health, but her people were dying, and it frightened her. Nothing had ever frightened her before. How would they survive? At the edge of the emerald plain, a gray wall of mist hung like a curtain, obscuring anything beyond. Jagged flashes of black light pulsed like lightning. Yet quietness followed the light show instead of thunder in a storm, until a new monster emerged, expelled at random intervals. The Tuatha De Danann, a magical race and ancient tribe of Ire, charged the gruesome creatures as each one stepped into their normally peaceful world. Yet they were careful not to touch the wall of mist. Certain death followed. We had eradicated these beasts centuries ago. The high-pitched voice belonged to a fairy woman no larger than a handspan. She flittered gossamer wings around the Morrigan, her tiny face scrunched in anxiety and pain. Miniature drops of tears slipped down her pale cheeks. And the mist moved last night, taking more of the land. Morrigan glanced at Plor, remembering a time when the fairy had been one of the Tuatha De Danann, a tall goddess, fair-haired and kind. Now some unknown magic crept through the lands of the otherworld, changing the peoples of the ancient tribe indiscriminately. How far did it move this time? A new round of tears shimmered in the fairy's light-colored eyes. It jumped nearly several hundred paces in a single breath. It swallowed many of our warriors, and... She scrubbed her red-splotched cheeks. It took my brother. The Morrigan drew in a deep breath, surveying the strange, ominous magic, willing her stomach to stop quivering. The chaos of the world-eating mist wrecked worse than just a few months ago. Her fears from last year manifested before her. An imminent war threatened if she failed to turn its tide. Feeling the fairy's gaze, she responded. Which brother? The fairy fluttered closer to her. Her voice came out small. Fionn. The Morrigan barely nodded before a new grunt thundered above the sounds of the fighting men and women. The ground shook. In rising anger, the Morrigan clenched her fists and narrowed her eyes on the mist. Now what? A giant at least 20 feet high stepped out of the gray wall, swinging great fists at anyone who dared approach. A single eye on his forehead blinked at the bright sun. Plor cried out in her small, silvery voice, hands over her ears. It's been almost 1,000 years since we last saw a Cyclops. The Tuatha De Danann warriors surged toward this new threat. Atop a white and gray-dappled horse, one man led the charge. A standard bearer stayed close on his mount's heels, carrying the Don Namui banner, the dark, deadly one. Around the leader's reddish-brown hair, a gold crown gleamed, marking him as Oshin, the king of this land. The Morrigan frowned and hissed. Fools. She turned her study to the fairy woman, whose agony seemingly increased, her eyes tearing at the sight of the king. No, father, the Morrigan huffed. Why haven't you fled to new lands? Zipping back and forth on the hilltop, Plor bit the tips of her fingers. Her father swiped a great sword at the back of the Cyclops' ankle, severing tendons. The giant fell with a howl. Several warriors rushed forward to strike. Plor released a long-held breath before stopping in front of Morrigan, her brows drawn tight. Some have left. Many have taken residence in the she-hills of Ire, because the mists are forming in the other lands. Great Mother Goddess, no, not the other lands. If Morrigan couldn't stop the destruction, the Tuatha De Danann wouldn't have any choice but to join the mortal realm. Sweeping her midnight hair back, she paced across the hilltop. She watched the fairy from the corner of her eye. What about you? In some ways, it might be better if Plor were to die. Morrigan hoped she never had to reveal her secrets and explain the choices she'd made. The tiny fairy and her parents wouldn't condone what she'd done. At the same time, she wanted to keep her people safe. Her prophetic visions put her in a unique position to do so. Plor clasped hands over her heart. My parents won't leave. They must fight for the land where our people have lived for hundreds of years since losing to the Malaysians and Ayr. You will die if you stay. Plore fluttered in front of the Morgan, her hands held up. Please tell me about the girls. I've tried to visit, but I didn't want to stay away too long. Her tiny eyes pleaded. The Morrigan winced as she halted. You have told me so little since Marigold. The fairy landed on her shoulder. Before something worse happens here, tell me something, anything about Rose and Lily. The Morgan shrugged, pacing once more, and Plore took flight again. The girls are fine. There are more important things for the small woman to worry about, like her own life. In my visions, I have seen the disintegration of the Tuatha De Danann lands, and it's already begun. All of you should think about migrating to Ayr. But we will be vulnerable to aging and death. The Morgan shook her head. Aging, and death from aging, yes. The other world revitalized them and kept them young, but made none of them impervious to death. Violence caused death here as in Ayr, the land of the mortals. But Plore meant a death by other means, like disease and starvation, things her people didn't experience in the other world. The fairy wrapped her arms around her slight body, shivering. It doesn't matter. Some will not listen, even as many of us turn into this. The Morgan still hadn't figured out what had caused Plore's change and many others like her. Her visions hadn't been truly clear beyond the destruction of the otherworld lands, gobbled into obscurity by the gray mists. She discerned no clue to why some Tuatha De Danann across the realms changed in nature. Needing more information, she descended the hill, heading toward the gray mist. The fairy woman darted after her. Don't go to it. We never know when it will move or how far. Even now, we are too close. The Morrigan gazed at her, this tiny fairy, this diminished goddess, and responded with a tight-lipped order. Don't follow. Holding her hands up, she continued her descent, murmuring low, calling on the winds. They came with a rumble, sweeping the land ahead of her and smacking into any of the creatures who spied her. Those who rushed toward her spun back and crashed to the ground. Whirlwinds circled out from her, clearing her path. The beasts from the mist ran away to find easier prey. Dropping her arms, Morrigan allowed the winds to die. She didn't look back at Plore. Instead, she deviated toward a small stand of oak trees to the east, which partly disappeared into the gray wall of mist. After finding a circle of oaks with their strong and knotty branches creating asymmetrical crowns, she grasped a fallen acorn and closed her hands over it with a quick incantation that dried the nut. She cracked the shell and popped the seed into her mouth. Chewing the tough acorn without swallowing, she closed her eyes and angled her head back. She raised her arms, palms to the sky, feeling the life forces of earth, air, and water, and drew in a deep, slow breath. She held it for 5 heartbeats, then released the air ever so slowly. Her mind focused on each inhalation, stop, and exhalation, her mind clearing. She called for the Ehemas Forasi, her gift of illuminated inspiration. Then the vision came. She opened her eyes to a changing landscape. Trees melted into the ground. Mists rolled along the earth, covering emerald plains, devouring everything. The sun blotted out. Blood from a massacre. Magic. Brown sheep with impenetrable skins of horn, heads of bone and iron beaks reeking a poisonous vapor. Hundreds of men dying. With these men, the Tuatha De Danann disappeared, replaced by the one god. Teachers and priests sweeping through the lands of Ayr, changing history with a sanitized version. She scowled. One face swam above the others, a leader of men, the Ard Ri, the High King of Ayr, Cormac Mac Art. Then the visions melded into the surrounding landscape of Tir na Nog, the sounds of battle around her. Even feeling exhausted, as if she'd been running the whole day, she rounded her shoulders back. She knew what she needed to do next. So that was chapter 1 of Soul of a Rose in my trilogy, The Clash of Goddesses. Hopefully that reading was interesting and it might entice you to go buy the book. Blood of the Lily is now on sale for free for the next 5 days, and Soul of a Rose you can grab for 99 cents. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and happy writing.